Hey everyone. So, guess the stream is live. Um, yeah, this is my first time doing a live stream, and me just double check everything. So yeah, today we will be learning C sharp, um, and I have had some experience, not in the sense that I know how to write C sharp code, but I've looked at some code in C sharp and think I worked on a function. But other than that, I haven't had any chance to work with C sharp. And also, I would love to explore the .NET world. Um, and yeah, that's why I decided um, I should start learning it, and also maybe it'll be helpful if I share my journey through these live streams. So yeah, I found about the .NET.microsoft.com where um, it has great learning resources, and also found some really good YouTube videos or playlists by Scott and other Microsoft people. So we'll be going through those along with Microsoft Learn. I find I have been using Microsoft Learn for quite a bit now, as you can tell from my level here for the Azure certifications, and I think it's a great resource. So I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's try the Learn platform for the C sharp too. So yeah, I have only went through just to uh, look at what the exercises were and how the Learn module is, and apart from that, yeah, I haven't checked out the entire module yet. Excuse me. But yeah, guess we can dive right into it. And the first one is write your first C sharp code. Um, Getting started. Sorry, I had to mute myself to get some water. Yeah, so get started by writing tiny code examples to learn the basics of C sharp syntax, learning objectives. In this module, you will write your first lines of C sharp code, use two different techniques to print a message, diagnose errors when you type code incorrectly, identify different C sharp syntax elements like operators, class, and methods. Cool. Okay. I guess I'll also try to put some music along the stream just to make it less boring. Um, just give me a second, and if you guys can confirm that you're listening, there's some music, please let me know. But yeah, sorry, I have like a really dry throat. I don't know why. Yeah, so The C# programming language allows you to build many types of applications like business applications to capture, analyze, and process data, dynamic web applications that can be accessed from a web browser, games. Yeah, I did know that used a lot in games. Both 2D and 3D, financial and scientific applications, cloud based applications, mobile applications. And, but how do you get started? By far, the best way to learn how to code is to write code. Couldn't agree more. As much code as possible. So we encourage you to enter code along with the exercises. Oh, cool! I think like they'll have a live kind of like free code camp where you type in the code and there's a terminal where you get the output. So that would be nice. And entering code yourself in each solving. Oh, so they will have some small coding challenges which will accelerate your learning. Furthermore, you need to begin learning small foundational concepts right here. Oh, so that's basically the same thing we read in the introduction. So here we go. Our Hello World program. The first is you'll use C# to print a hello programmer's phrase to the output window. There's long-standing tradition among software developers to print the phrase "Hello World." Yep, to a command line or console window. As you see, you can learn a lot about programming. The .NET editor. Oh, so this is the .NET editor, and this is the output pane. So I'm guessing any code you write, if it has an output, it would show up in the output pane. Later, you'll graduate to use either Visual Studio Code, love it, or the full Visual Studio IDE. I haven't used Visual Studio. Like I used Visual Studio Code, but I haven't used the full IDE. I have it installed, but I have never used it. So that would be interesting. Like, I think we'll use the IDE this time, along with these exercises after we reach that level. To build larger and more interesting code examples, even entire application, nice. Enter this code into the .NET editor on the right. Also, it has a nice copy button. So console.writeLine, and then we have the brackets, and then hello world in the quotes, double quotes, and let's try it. Yep, so it basically prints it out. I'll explain how and why it works soon, but first you should see it running and ensure you didn't enter it incorrectly. Yep, did that. Press the green button. The output window, yep, we saw that. And what to do if you see an error message. So writing C# code is an exercise in precision. If you enter just one character incorrectly, you will see an error message. Oh, interesting. Oh, cool. The name console does not exist in the current context. Yep, that's the exact same error. The first part, this thing indicates the line and the column where the error occurred. Oh, nice. So first line, first column. But what does this error message mean? So C# is a case-sensitive language, meaning that the C# compiler considers the words console and console differently, just like cat or dog. Okay. Sometimes the error messages can be a bit misleading. You'll need to understand the true reason why the error exists, and that comes through learning more about C# syntax. Similarly, if you used single quotation marks to surround the literal string hello world like so. Oh, okay. So instead of double quotes, we'll use single quotes, and make sure we fix the C before running. Okay, there's a little squiggly. So there are too many characters in the character literal. I think we'll get the same in the output. Nice. Again, line 1, character 19. points us to the culprit. You can use the message as clue. What exactly is a character literal? What? So while we'll describe literals of various data types, including collector literals, in another module, okay, our advice for now is to be careful when you're entering code. Fortunately, errors are never permanent. You merely spot the error, fix it, and rerun the app. Yep. So basically, you debug and you fix the errors. Common mistakes new programmers make. Entry low case. Yep. I think I'll make those a lot. Entering a comma instead of a period between console and write line. No. And forgetting double quotation marks or using single quotations. Yep. Forgetting a semicolon. I think I'll miss that too. Each of these mistakes prevents your code from compiling successfully. Assuming you were successful in previous steps, let's continue. Okay. So comment out the previous line of code and then add in the new lines of code in the .NET editor to print a new message. Okay, let's write something else. So console. Oh, nice. Okay, so it's like a full-fledged editor. Write line, and then we can write. I don't know how active the chat is. Hey, Carolyn. Sorry, I'm just going through chat now. And, hey, Misha. Thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, so we'll write. I'll just write my channel name about that. I think that's right. Yep. And we will welcome Carolyn in the chat. I hope I spelled her name right. Yep, that looks right. Who else is in the chat? Oh, hey, Johanna. Thanks for joining the stream. And as you can see, I'm thanking everyone using the lab here. Let's print that. Cool. We can have something like welcome to. Awesome. Okay. So create code comment by prefixing the line of code. Okay, so you use, as you can see, the double forward slashes for the comments. At least for like a one-line comment. I don't know how you do a multi-line right now. This instructs the compiler to ignore all the instructions on that line. Yep. So basically, the definition of comment. The 3 new lines of code you added demonstrated the difference between. Oh, okay. So I missed this. Let's change the last one to just console.write. Let's read what the difference is. The new lines of code you added could easily be shortened to a single line of code like you wrote in step 1. However, you wanted to learn a second technique to print a message to the output console. To print an entire message to the output console, the first technique used. At the end of line, it added a line feed similar to how to create a new line of text by passing enter or return. Okay. To print the output to console, but at the to print to the output console, but at the end, not adding a line feed. The second technique used. So the next call to console prints an additional message to the same line. Is that Oh, I see. So if you just do console.write, ooh, okay. So there is no like enter or a new line. Whereas if you do console.write line, it starts the next comment, like, or the next output is starts on the next line. Okay, that makes sense. So beyond two techniques for printing messages to the output console, there's more to learn from this exercise. Okay, let's go to the next unit on how it works. And let's change it to right line again, just because I don't want to mess up the names. C Elf. Hey Elf. Do you want to learn C sharp? You can join the stream if you want. Oh, I'm just kidding. I, I think he's really into JavaScript. Like Next, I think was trying out Next. Could be wrong. But yeah, I tried JavaScript. I know some of it. Like I can build basic stuff. Um, Not like full-fledged full stack sites, but I just used it for like my portfolio and stuff like that. Nothing crazy. But yeah. Oh, cool. So how it works. Um, and by the way, if I guess you guys should be seeing me looking up somewhere. This is because I have my monitors stacked vertically. Um, and yeah, that's why I look up. So not to be weird, but yeah, it might seem weird for someone joining the stream. So to understand how your code works, you need to step back and think about what is programming language and how it communicates your commands to the computer. What is programming language? Programming languages like C Sharp enable you to write instructions that you want the computer to carry out. Each programming language has a different syntax, but after you learn your first programming language and then attempt to learn the second one, you'll quickly realize that they'll all share many similar ideas. That's true. A programming language's job is to enable a human to write instructions in a human readable and understandable way. The instructions you write in the programming language is called source code or just code. So basically, this uh, is our source code or just code. At this point, the code can be updated and changed by a software developer, but the computer can't understand the code. It first must be compiled into a format that the computer can understand. So basically, the .NET editor, I don't know how it's built, but they've done a pretty good job. It compiles whatever we are writing, the instructions here, to a computer readable format, and that's why you see like the outputs here are basically the instructions that we gave it. Oh, there's the definition of compilation. A special program called a compiler converts your source code into a different format that is executable by the computer's CPU. And when you use the green red button in the previous unit, the code you wrote was first compiled then executed. Which red button? I think they mean like the green button here, the run. Yeah. Oh, sorry. My bad. I don't know why I read it red button. Oh my god. I'm seeing things. Sorry. When you use the green, red, or run button in the previous unit, the code you wrote was first compiled then executed. Why do we need to compile our code? Even though most programming languages seem cryptic at first, they can be more easily be understood by humans than the computer's preferred language, which is expressed by turning thousands or millions of tiny switches either on or off. So basically the binary, so ones and zeros. So I'm guessing it would be very hard to write all these instructions in binary. Hence, we use programming languages, and Yeah, so they're just mentioning that it takes time to understand a basic, not a basic, but a given language. In my case, C sharp. Um, yeah. What is syntax? Sorry, I'll just check the chat. Oh, Johanna says JavaScript is currently kicking my butt. Oh, I've been through that. I've been learning JavaScript since 2019, or probably like late 2018, early 2019 is when I like dipped my toes into JavaScript. And yeah, I'm still learning. Kellen says JavaScript, TypeScript is the bomb. And Joanna says just learning, trying to figure out how to count every time I click a slide button. Trust me, I've been there. So yeah, I don't want to turn this into a JavaScript stream. But yeah, let's get back to C sharp. The syntax of programming language includes the keyword, uh, the operators, those special keyboard characters like semicolon, parenthesis, and other grammar rules that the compiler enforces. The lines of code you typed followed about a dozen different syntax rules and used at least 4 different operators. There's much to learn, but fortunately, each concept is simple. Don't give up, you can learn it. Yep. Try to not give up. Um, when you enter code into the .NET editor, you may have noticed subtle changes to the color of different words and symbols. Syntax highlighting is a helpful feature that you will begin to use to easily spot mistakes in your code. Oh, I think they mean like, if we change this, yeah, so these things. And also like when you get a suggestion, um, syntax highlighting is a helpful feature that you will begin to use easily spot mistakes in your code. Yep. Not confirm syntax rules of C#. In fact, a similar and even more robust version of this feature is available in Visual Studio Code, yep, and the full Visual Studio IDE. How did your code work? So let's focus on the following line of code you wrote. Okay. So when you ran your code, you saw the message "Hello World" was printed to the output pane. The phrase surrounded by the double quotation marks in your C# code. Okay, so "Hello World." It's called a literal string. Okay, so this is basically a literal string. Yep, makes sense. So we literally wanted it to print like "Welcome to Rishabh Cloud." Sent to the output. You'll learn about literal strings in the module titled store and retrieve data. Okay, so there will be a module in future dedicated to literal strings. The right line part is called a method. So this. The right line method's job is to write a line of data to the output window. The data that's printed is sent in between the opening and closing parentheses as an input parameter. Okay, so basically this is our input and to the method right line. Yep. Some methods need input parameters, others don't. Okay, so I guess we'll be seeing some methods where you don't need any input. Okay. But if you want to invoke a method, you must always use the parentheses after the method's name. So basically, yeah. So every method should be in this format. Some of them will have inputs, like in our case, the hello world and all of the names that I have were the input parameters. The parentheses are also known as method invocation operator. Oh, good to know. Yeah, I think we'll call it parentheses or brackets. I don't know. I don't think people use brackets, so I'll stick to parentheses. You will learn more about calling methods in the module titled. Okay, so there will be a module in the future. The console part is called a class. Okay, so this is basically the class, and this is the method, and this is the input parameter. Cool. So the concept we call classes own methods, or perhaps a better way to say it is that methods live inside of a class. Okay, so WriteLine is a method of the console class. Yeah, said it right. So like classes have methods that you can use, and I think it depends on which class we will be using going forward would have different methods that you can call. There's also a dot or a period that separates the name, class name, console, and the method name WriteLine. Yep, the period here. The period is the member access operator. In other words, the dot is how you navigate from the class to one of its methods. I wonder if it suggests the methods. If you okay, so basically here are some methods that we can use for the console class. Change it back to WriteLine for now. Finally, the semicolon is the end of the statement operator. A statement is a complete instruction in C#. The semicolon tells the compiler that we are finished entering the command. Okay, so this basically means that here's a command. This is where it ends. Don't worry if all these ideas and terms make sense. For now, all you really need to remember is that you want to print a message to an input window like console. Use console, your message here, capitalize console right in line. Use the correct punctuation because they have a special rule in C#. If you make a mistake, just spot it, fix it, rerun, you can rely. Understand the flow of execution. Also, it's important to understand the flow of execution. In other words, your code instructions were executed in order one line at a time until there were no more instructions to execute. Some instructions will require the CPU to wait before it can continue. Other instructions can be used to change the flow of execution. So you learn about these special situations as you learn C# syntax and methods in the .NET class library. Now let's test what you have learned. Each module features a simple challenge. Okay. So just to recap, we have classes and we have methods for each class. And then we have the parentheses that takes in like the input parameters, but there will be some methods that don't have any input parameters, but in those cases too we need to use the parentheses. And basically in this command or the code we wrote, we just said, hey, write this to the console, which in C# syntax looks like this, and basically gives us the desired result. And the flow of it is again like class, period, method, and then parentheses, whatever the input parameter is. In our case, it was a literal string. That's why we have the double quotes, and then closing the double quotes, the parentheses, and the semicolon basically says this is the end. Okay. Let's see the challenge. So code challenges for these modules will reinforce what you have learned and help you gain some confidence before continuing on. Sorry, I'm just gonna check the chat. Hey JP. No, you're not late. Yeah, we just started our first module, and the module name is Write Your First C# Code. So, pretty basic stuff. We used the all-time favorite. We learned how to write Hello World in C#, and now I'm just writing your name. So welcome to the stream. And we also learned what WriteLine and write does. There we go. Cool. And the challenge. So we were doing the challenge here. Step 1, delete all the code from the earlier exercise. Select the code in the .NET editor and press delete or backspace. Yeah. To display two messages. Use the two different techniques to print the two lines of the output. In other words, you learned how to display a message in just one line of code, and you learned how to display a message using multiple lines of code. Use both techniques for this challenge. It doesn't matter which technique you apply to which line. It doesn't matter how many ways you split one of the messages into multiple lines of code. That's your choice. Whether you get stuck, you need a particular solution. Continue to okay. So I think I'll just comment this out for now. Oops. And just copy this. So this is the output we need. The first method we learned is console write line, and this is the first line, and then we have a semicolon so that it knows we're ending. And oh, I guess we just need to replace first with second, and I think that should give us the desired output. Okay. Oh, two different techniques. So let's see what if we do right line or just right. Sorry. Okay. And so we would need console write line. So this would give us a space in, or this would give us like the using the second method. I think that's how they meant it. I could be wrong, but yeah, basically the first one was just using right line in both cases, and then the second one is using just the right method. Oh, I see what they meant. Oh, okay. So yeah, we can totally do that. So if we go back and just use right line, which would mean the next line that we would write would start on the next line in the output console. So basically here. And so what they did is, but yeah, I think we did it right too, because we used both methods to write different strings to the output. Yeah, so they just did it in chunks. And as we know, console.write, the next, whatever the next string we print out won't start on a new line. Hence, you'll get a sentence. So is the will cheat. We won't use it 3 times like they did. So this should still be. Oh, there we go. So that is the desired output. And congratulations. Continue with the knowledge check in the next unit. Okay, here comes the test time. We'll see what questions they have. Just gonna check the chat for a little bit. Okay. So yeah, check your knowledge. What is the primary job of compiler? Compiler primarily locates spelling mistakes in your code, reformats your code, executes your code, or converts your code into an executable format that the computer can understand. So we all know what a compiler job is, or a compiler's job is. Which of the following statements is true about C#? C# is case sensitive, yes. Console is a method, and right line, no. So we did remember the class comes first, which in our case was console, and then the method is the like part of classes. So yeah, console is a class, and then right line is a method. You use double quotation marks to create a literal string. Oh, that's always true about C#. If you make a mistake when writing code, you have to delete it all. No, that's not true. But I know C# is case sensitive for sure. You use double quotation marks to create a literal string. I think that's true too, right? Or am I wrong? Let's stick with C sharp as case. Oh, I see. Made another mistake, like just like that red button thing. It says is case insensitive, and that's why they have it in italic. Here's a tip Microsoft Learn. If you want us to pay attention, make it bold. I totally get it. It's italic. I should have read it again. But yeah, make it bold. Or make it red. I don't know. So yeah, we use double quotation marks to create a literal string. What is wrong with this line of code? Console.writeLine. What is wrong with me? So I think this looks right. This looks right. And then parentheses and quotation marks. And then we have the string. So I only think it is missing like the semicolon at the end. And that is an option. So yeah, let's check our answers. Cool. Summary. Our goal is to write code that will display sample messages to an output console, and in doing so, become familiar with the syntax. Awesome. Unlock achievement. You did it. Cool, cool, cool. So if we go back to the main learning path, so we did our first module, and I think we have 8 of them. Yeah, says it right there. And yeah, let's jump into the next one. And yeah, feel free to chime in the chat, as I have been making some reading mistakes. I don't know what I'm reading. But yeah. Oh, also, yeah, I said I was going to play some music, and for some reason, yeah, I have to figure out the OBS stuff. So I use OBS to do the live stream, and yeah, it's the audio stuff. So I have to figure out the music source. So let's do that right now. So yeah, I don't know. I think this would be. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you guys are hearing the music now, and if it's not overlapping with my voice. I want to make sure my voice is audible. But yeah, do let me know in the chat. I think I figured it out. But yeah, I could be wrong. So yeah, let's keep moving. Thanks, Kellen, for confirming. Awesome. She says, I saw that YouTube has a survey features for live streams. Never did one myself, so I'm not sure. You should put some questions on here, like the check your knowledge ones. Oh, interesting. So I can put like live questions or like surveys during the live stream. I think that's what she meant. That would be nice. Yeah, I don't know either how you do that, but yeah, definitely do some more research. That would be interesting. So yeah, let's jump into the second module. Many applications you'll build in C# will require you to work with data. Yep. sometimes the data will be hard coded in your application. For example, you may need to print a message to the user when some operation succeeds. Yes, success message would likely be the same every time the application is executed, but more often you'll work with the data that is unknown as you build your application. Yep, perhaps the data is captured via keyboard input or comes from file or the internet. Okay, yeah. So basically, I think we'll learn about how to like retrieve data and stuff. And yeah, that's true. Like sometimes you will use local files. The other times, like if we're integrating with some API or using some API to get our data. You could think of a use case like a weather app. So you'll be using, I don't know, Open Weather Map, I think it's called, to pull the weather data into your app. Suppose you want to display a formatted message to the end user containing different types of data. The message would be include hard-coded strings, but may combine it with information your application collects from the user. Okay, yeah, so in this case, like we wrote console.writeLine hello world. I think we could use something like hello and whatever the username is. So let's say our app has basically, it has login, and whenever a user logs in, we want to write out like output message saying that hello, whatever the user tried to log in, instead of saying hello world. So yeah. So yeah, to display formatted messages, you'll need to create both hard-coded values, in our case hello, and then define variables. So as I said, username. So username most likely will be a variable which would be used in authentication also. But then since we have the value of their name in that variable, we can use it to like as an output too. So basically variable is like where data can be stored of a certain type, whether numerical, numeric, and so on. In this module, you'll create hard-coded literal values that contain different data types. Okay, so you'll create variables that can hold certain data types, set those variables with a value, and then retrieve those value later in the code. Okay, so we'll use variables in this module, and then we'll also see how we can store different kind of values like string, alphanumeric, numbers, or integers I meant. And finally, you'll learn how you can simplify your code by allowing the compiler to shoulder some of the work. Okay. By the end of this module, you'll be able to create literal values and store the retrieve data in variables. Learning objectives are create literal values for 5 basic data types, declare and initialize variables, retrieve and set values in variables, okay, and then allow the compiler to determine the data type of your variable when initializing. Prerequisites, yeah, so we went with the first module. So here is the exercise. Literal values. In this exercise, you'll print out messages containing other types of data and learn why data types are so important. Okay, so I think instead of just the like strings that we did in the last module, we'll do we'll print some other data types. A literal value is a hard-coded value that never changes. Yep. Previously, we displayed a literal string to the output pane. Yep. Hello world. The string data type is used whenever you have alphanumeric words, phrases, or data for presentation, not calculation. More about that in a moment. So basically, it's a static value that we would assign, and it won't change. And we can't perform any calculations on it. So basically, like hello world, if we have that in the console.writeLine, it'll stay the same until and unless we change the code itself. And so exercise, print out different literal data types. There are many data types in C#, but as you're getting started, you only need to know about 5 or 6 data types since they cover most scenarios. Let's display a literal instance of data type to the output pane. Okay, So console right line B, can just copy this, even though it's not big line, but yeah. Okay, so so if only wanted a single alphanumeric character printed to the screen, we could create a char. So char stands for character, literal, by surrounding one alphanumeric character in single quotes. I see. So basically, this can be 6. Awesome. And but if we type 2, yeah. So as you can see, it has 2 digits. So it's not a character anymore. It's more than a character. Similarly, if you type in like 2 words, so not 2 words, I meant like 2 alphabets, it will do the same. Okay, cool. So stick with the B. And if you enter the following code, yep, we already saw that. It's too many characters in the character literal. So the C# compiler was expecting a single character since you use the character literal syntax. Oh, I see. So the single quotes are used for characters, and then the double quotes are used for literal strings. The term characters, yep, as I said, is short for character. In C#, they're officially referred to as char, but frequently referred to as character. So write an int, I think this means integer, integer literal to the console. If you want to print a numerical number value to output, you can use an interliteral, and interliteral requires no additional operators like string or characters. Okay, so basically you can, I think this is pretty same across programming languages. Let me know in the chat if there is a language, like a programming language that does this differently. But yeah, basically if your data is only integers, you can basically say parentheses and then all the digits. So you don't need single quotes or double quotes in simple terms. If you run the code, you'll get the following output. Yep, the term int is short for integer, which you may recognize from studying math. In C#, they're officially referred to as int. Okay. Yep. So write a decimal literal to the console. If we want to print a number that includes values after the decimal point, we could use decimal literal. To create a decimal literal, append the letter M after the number. Okay. So 123.4, and if you run that, we still get, okay. And if I use M, okay. In this concept, M is called literal suffix. The literal suffix tells the compiler you wish to work with a value of type of decimal. Add the following line to code. Okay. Yeah, might be missing something, but why does this work too? I know I'm a noob, but yeah, I would love to know, like, does it mean the same thing? Or is it like some compiler magic that it knows since it's a decimal number, it just outputs it? But yeah, moving on. So we'll use M just to avoid any issues going further. If we wanted to print a value representing either true or false, we could use bool literal. So bool stands for boolean. Are the following lines of code. Okay, so if we do true, it would return true, and then if we would do false, it would return false. The term bool is short for boolean, which you may also recognize from studying math. In C#, they're officially referred to as bool, but yeah, the bool literally represents the idea of truthhood and falsehood. So basically, if something is true, or if something is false. We'll use bool values extensively when we start to add decision logic. So basically, yeah. So whenever we have to make decisions like, 1 is equal to 1 or 1 is equal to 2. So return true on the first case because, yes, 1 is equal to 1, right? And similarly, like, you can expand the logic there to different cases. But yeah, that's, I think you get the gist of when we'll use booleans or bool. Why emphasize data types? So data types play a central role in C sharp. In fact, the emphasis on data types is one of the key distinguishing features of C sharp. Okay. Compared to other languages like Python and JavaScript. The designers of C sharp believe they can help developers avoid common software bugs by enforcing data types. You'll see this concept unfold as you learn more about C sharp. Okay. Presentation versus calculation and evaluation. Earlier we said that the strings and chars are used for presentation and not calculation. That's correct. If you need to perform a mathematical operation or numeric values, you should use an int or decimal. If you have data that is used for presentation or reference purposes only, you should use a string or char. So basically, I think like if you're adding numbers or doing some sort of arithmetic operations on the numbers, you will use it as like integers or decimals. But let's say I want to print out something, I don't know, like a static thing, like in a string. So I would use strings or like characters. The same can be said for Boolean. If you need to work with words true or false in your application, you would use a string. Oh, like the literal words true or false. That's why they're in double quotes. However, if you need to work with the concept of either a thing is true or false, you would need to use the Boolean data type. So it's important to know that these values may look like they're string literal equivalents. In other words, you may think these statements are the same. Okay, so yeah, so that is kind of what they explained here. So these statements are not same. So this is printing out a literal string 1 2 3, whereas this is an integer, and same here. So this is like a literal string that says true, whereas this is a Boolean value that says like that is true. So recap, the main takeaway is that there are many data types, but we'll focus on just a few for now. String for words, phrases, or any alphanumeric data for present and not calculation. Yep. Char for a single alphanumeric character, and then int for the whole number, decimal for the decimal numbers, and bool for true false. Okay. So variables. Literal is literally a hard-coded value. However, most applications will require us to work with values that we don't know much about ahead of time. In other words, we'll need to work with data that comes from users, from files, or from across the network. When we need to work with the data types from outside of our code, we'll declare a variable. Okay. So what is a variable? A variable is a data item that may change its value during its lifetime. You may use variables to temporarily store values that you intend to use later in your code. So basically, literal means like literal values, and then variable, as the name suggests, like the value can vary or can be changed, can be manipulated, can be updated. A variable is a variable is a friendly label that we can assign to a computer memory address when we want to temporarily store a value in that memory address, or whenever we want to retrieve the value that is stored in the memory address, we just use a variable name that we created. Okay, so basically if you declare a variable and then if you assign a value to it, you are just addressing that value in the memory address of the computer, and let's say later we want to retrieve it, so you're retrieving it from the computer memory address. Declaring a variable. So to create a new variable, you must first declare the data type of the variable and then give it a name. Oh, I see how they were comparing it back to like the JavaScript and Python stuff. So I think like in JavaScript you can do const or let. But here I think you need to have data type in front. So I think that's what this means. So string, and then we need first name. So I'm guessing, then give it a name. Okay, yeah. So string is telling us that the data type is string, and we have a variable named first name. The variable first name is declared but never used. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just gonna. Okay, so there are some rules and conventions for the variable names in C sharp. We'll go over those. Once family said the hardest part of software is naming things. Not only does the name of the variable have to follow certain syntax rules, it should also be used to make the code more human readable. That is correct. Um, and that's a lot to ask of one line of code. Here's a few important considerations. So variable names can contain alphanumeric characters and the underscore character. Okay, so this can have a number. Special characters like the hash, also known as the number symbol or dollar, are not allowed. Okay, so you can have underscore, alphanumeric, but number and dollar signs are not allowed. Variable names must begin with alphabetical letter or an underscore, not a number. Okay, it can be alphanumeric, but the first letter should be an alphabet or an underscore. Oh, okay. Underscore is used for special purposes. Yeah, that would make things confusing. So we'll stick to the alphabets for the first character. So there shouldn't be like, we can't name this variable string. So like it shouldn't say string or like string decimal. That makes sense. Variables are case sensitive, meaning that string value and string value are two different variables. Okay. So let's say if we do this, so it's not the same variable as before. So we could have two variable names, both saying first name, but they're not, like, their cases doesn't match, so they will be treated as different variables. Yeah, so they said like you could use camel case. Variable name should use camel case, which is a style of writing that uses lowercase letter at the beginning of the first word and then uppercase letter at the beginning of subsequent word. So in our case, first name, the first letter is lowercase, but then the subsequent word, the name, it has like the N is capital. So this is called camel case. Variable name shouldn't. Oh, I missed two. Variable name should be descriptive and meaningful in your application. Choose a name variable that represents the kind of data it will hold. So basically, if we name the variable first name, most likely to hold like the value of first name of the user or anything that we're trying to build. So, like, don't use variables that don't make sense, or by variables I mean the variable name. It should represent what data it holds. So yeah, variable name should be one or more words append together. Don't use contractions because the name of the variable and therefore its purpose may be unclear to others who are reading your code. Okay, variable name shouldn't include the data type of the variable. You might. Oh, I see. This. You might see some advice to use a style like that otherwise is no longer current. Okay. So you don't have to specify like string and then you put str just to suggest someone that it's a string. That's the data type of the variable, which is no longer the case. So yeah, string first name. So this is a good example here. Yeah, that's what they said. Variable name examples. So char, as we saw, character, user option. So in this case, a char could be y or n, or like y if they're picking yes, and then integer game score. So with Euro Cup going on, so you can guess like game score would be, if they scored 2 calls, it will be 2, the number 2, and then decimal is particles per million. Yep, that's something that we think we use that a lot in chemistry. Could be wrong. Yeah, ppm, bool. So boolean, processed customer, true or false. So we already know. So recap, I think I can go over this, but basically you have your data type in the front. So string, char, int, decimal, bool. And then you have your variable name, which should be alphanumeric. Make sure like it's camel case just to like it's readable, and then also make sure you don't use the number sign or dollar sign, and also what else? Oh, you could use underscore too. But yeah, those are a few things that we learned in this module or this unit. So, we have an exercise in this one. Since variables are temporary storage containers for data, they're meant to be written and read from. You'll get a chance to do both in the following exercise. Cool. So I think what we'll be doing here is declaring a variable, assigning it a value, and then trying to read it. So working with variables in this, you'll declare a variable, assign it a value, retrieves its value, and more. I swear I didn't read this. Like, I knew what was coming. Delete all of the code in the code editor. Okay. Here we go. And declare a variable. Oh, why would it say to delete if it was the same thing? So we declare a variable called string, called first name, that the data type is string. And then we assign it a value of first name. And let's go with GitHub as first name. Make sure we put the semicolon at the end. Tend to improperly assign a value to variable. Oh, I see. So this is the correct method, right? So what they are suggesting is to use an incorrect method. So the value is first, and then we assign it to the first name. And let's see what it says. Use of unassigned local variable first name. The left-hand side of an assignment must be a variable. So you can see like left-hand side should be the variable, and then the right-hand side should be the value. So yeah, so if we run the command or the statement here, it would give us the same error in the output. So let's go back, delete this, and yeah. I want to change this to Joe. Okay, so they said let's change the data type to int and try running the code. Cannot implicitly convert type string to int. Your message hints that what the C# compiler tries to do behind the scenes, it tried to convert Bob to be an int value. However, that is impossible. In other words, you can't put a square peg into a round hole. Even so, C#. Okay, so the compiler tried to, even though we declared like first name as a variable that would hold a data type of integer, but when we assigned the value, it was a string. So the compiler tried to convert it, but it could not, and which is not possible. So yeah, hence the error. And then we try to retrieve. Okay, so we have our string first name variable, or first name variable that holds a string, that the value is equal to Joe for now. And then we do console.write line parentheses, brackets, and yeah. So since it's not a literal string, and we want to see what is in the first name variable, we won't use the double quotes, right? Because double quotes meant literal string. Um, Hence, we'll just use the parentheses which hold the input parameter, which in our case is the value. The variable, which holds the value Joe. So we'll see Joe printed out in the output. So reassign the value. Oh, okay, cool. So this gives me another chance to write all of your guys' names again. Change this to Misha. Change this to Carol. Oops. And I'll just copy the console.write line. Antonio JP. I think I got all of them. Yeah, if you're in the stream and I don't have your name here, please like type it in the chat. Just say hi in the chat. I would know that you're in the stream. So yeah, I think it would print out all the names. If you run, yep. Because so what's happening here is we declare a variable that can hold strings as a data type, and we assign Misha in the second line as the value to that first name variable, and then we ask it to like write line console or console write line, so it outputs Misha and the statement ends. But it goes on to the next line, the fourth line, which says, oh, okay, I know you were holding this value, but now let's assign first name to the first name variable to Carolyn, and then we do the same thing again. We do the write line, and it prints out Carolyn, and then we just repeat the same step again and again until we get all the names here. Initialize the variable. So yeah, let's go to the next step 7. You must set a variable to a value before you can get the value. Okay, so we'll guess if we get rid of this, or I'll just comment these out. Yeah, I would love to learn multi-line comment. I can Google it, but I want to stick to the curriculum that Microsoft Learn has, and we'll see when they really publish or really tell us about multi-line comments in C# in this module. But yeah, so the error is use of unassigned local variable first name. So we have a variable and we don't have any value assigned to it, hence it says unassigned. In fact, you can perform both the declaration and setting the variable of In fact, you can perform both the declaration and setting the value of the variable in one line of code. This technique is called initializing the variable. Okay, so they're saying that we can do something like this, right? So string, and then first name is the variable. Oh wait, why does it have new line in constant? Oh, I see. Okay, interesting. So yeah, so you don't need 2 lines of code. As earlier we were doing, like we were declaring the variable and then we were assigning it a value, whereas now we are initializing the variable. So it's a 1 line where it declares and also assigns it a value. So the recap basically is, yeah, we went over how we declare a variable, assign it a value, um, utilize it, like retrieve the value of it, and we also saw how you can make a two-line code into one line by initializing the variable. Is that we assign it the value in the same line as we declare it, which means initializing. If I got that right. Yeah. So yeah, let's move on. Wait, that's it. Oh, I think you need to like do Bob because I don't see like next at the bottom. I don't know. I'll see. Sorry, I'm just gonna check chat. Okay. Oh, we're already 1 hour and 15 minutes into the stream, almost. So yeah, let's go through the second module here complete, and then we'll think we'll do this module only. And then I don't have a particular schedule right now for the C# streams. I think I'll probably do it like twice a week. I don't know. Maybe I could do it every other day, so like every alternate day. But I think that'll be too much. We'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. But yeah. So implicitly typed local variables. The C# compiler affords many conveniences as you write code. It can infer your variable data types by its initialized value. In this unit, you'll learn about this feature called implicitly typed local variables. What are implicitly typed local variables? Is created using the var keyword. Okay, which instructs the C# compiler to infer the type. I see. So yeah, this was what I was talking about with Python and JavaScript. Is like the language itself decides based on the value you assign it, what is the data type. So like you would put var. I think that was the old way. I think you use const now for like constants and let. I could be wrong. I don't know if Alf is still in the stream. He's an expert, but yeah. So yeah, that is a smarter way when you don't know or you're not certain with the type. Guess you are. I think it just avoids some bugs. I don't know. We'll see. Since the variable message is immediately set to the string value hello world. Okay, so we set a variable called message, assign it a string value of hello world. C# compiler understands the intent and treats every instance of message as instance type string. So yeah, it treats it as a string. In fact, the message variable is typed to be a string and can never be changed. Here we'll attempt to set the message to okay. So we declare message through the var keyword instead of string, and we assign it a string value of hello world, but then we try to assign message a decimal value of 10.0, and if we run that code, we see the following same error message that we saw in the past where it cannot convert the decimal the variable to a decimal type from string. So you can only use the keyword var keyword if the variable is initialized. Okay, so you must understand that the var keyword is dependent on the value you use to initialize the variable. If you try to use var keyword without initializing, so initializing the variable meant like when you declare it and also assign it a value. So you cannot use it. Oh, sorry, we could use the string, so this thing, string car bool int, and then declare the variable and then assign the value on the next line, as we did in the past in the previous module or previous unit. But with var, you need to assign it a value. Otherwise, you get this error message saying that must be initialized. So you just can't have var message, whereas you can have string first name and then in the statement right there. So why use the var keyword? Var keyword has widely been adopted in C# community, so it's likely if you look at a code example in a book or online, you'll see the use of var instead of the actual data type name. So we wanted to make sure you introduce it in this module. However, the var keyword has an important use in C# for reasons that may not be clear to you until you write advanced code. There are situations where the data type may not be obvious at the time you initialize the variable. In fact, in some cases, C# may invent a new data type just for your code and may not be able to give it a predictable name ahead of time. Again, this is an advanced feature of C# that will be covered in other modules. Okay. As you get started, we recommend you continue to use the actual data type name when you declare variables. Using the data type when you declare variables will help you purposeful as you write your code. So yeah, I think we'll stick to whatever the data type we will be using. So I'll be using string, char, boolean. But yeah, I think we'll discover it in the next module. What are the implications and why it's better to use, or why we should use var. So yeah, moving on to the challenge. In this challenge, you'll write code that will combine literal and variable values into a single message. Okay. Write code, so delete all the code. Yeah. I don't know if we should delete it. I'll leave it as comment. Oh, so when you're finished, the message should look like this. Okay. So we have to combine string literals, or any literal in this case, along with variables, and then we'll try to output the. So this is the desired output. Okay, let's copy that and have it here. So I think all I'll do is so Bob, as there's a name, I think we'll declare the name and assign it a value Bob, and since it's string, so string first name Bob. Okay, and then you have 3 in your inbox, so most likely if this was an app that was trying to get a value of how many messages you have in inbox, I'm pretty sure we'll use a variable. So int, what should we call it? Inbox? And that is equal to 3. And then we do have a temperature, so do we want? Yeah, so like I said, in the weather app or any other app, the data, like that'll change eventually. So in our case, like this would change, right? The number of messages you have in your inbox, or the temperature that is in that city, and the name of the user. So we'll have that as variables. And I also want to make sure I use console.writeLine, and then this would be our string, right? But we want to use variables, so oh, they did mention like store the following values and variables. Yeah. So we'll have another one. And temp maybe. or we'll name it completely. 34.4. Okay, so we have all three variables. Oh, okay. So console, the right line, hello, and I think I don't know how we do. So if I do first name, should that work? I'm doing it wrong. Expected. So like this. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. Um. Oh, it didn't. Okay, that went away. Yeah. But I don't think it's the comma. Sorry, I'm just checking chat. Panic says var is interchangeable and will adapt, change the type depending on what you're assigning it to. Don't know how you do like attach strings to along with the variables. Did we go with that? Oh, I like I don't want to go ahead and Google this, but I think what we could do is console right, and yeah, I think this is how we are supposed to do it until they teach us how to attach like string literals with variables, and then console. Yep. Okay. Yeah, this is not a better way of doing it, but I don't know. I think this is the way we are supposed to do it based on the lessons we went through. And we have inbox. Go till here, and then console. And this can be, not can be, I named it temperature. Yep. And then this can be console. Right. Yeah, that seems right. Let's run it. Hello, Bob. You have 3. Yeah, apart from that, it looks pretty good. Just some spacing issues. Hello, Bob. So, hello, space, Bob. And then, what was the desired output? Oh, exclamation. You have 3 in your inbox. We have 2 spaces here. Oh, I think they have it too. Cool. 34.4. And then we just need a space here. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I was telling you guys. Like, I don't know how to like attach um, variables and strings, or at least they have not taught me yet. So we'll want to keep her pace along with the module. I don't want to like go ahead and Google stuff. And yeah, we were right. So this was this way I was supposed to do it. Awesome. Knowledge check time. Okay, let me have some water and yeah. Oh, by the way, I have a lot of stickers. And my laptop was kind of already full with stickers. So what I decided is to do, like, you can see, to have them on my bottle. And yeah, they look pretty good, to be honest. But yeah. And this was a nice idea. I think, yeah, she posted a picture of her with her bottle that had like tons of stickers. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I could utilize some of my stickers on my bottle. But yeah, anyways, knowledge check. So, which of the following variable names should or must be avoided? Yeah, I would love to dig into that idea that Caroline had, just to make like the chat more engaging. Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to figure it out. But yeah, I can tell. As we know, like we can't use number signs and dollar sign for the variable name, so straight away it was the dollar data. What is the problem with this line of code? Var message. So as we discussed or we saw in the module, var, if you use var to declare your variable, it should be initialized, so there must be a value assigned to it. And since this is just declaring variable message, which would give us an error, instead it should have been like string message. So we'll say use of var keyword without initializing. Yeah, so this is the right answer. Which of the following lines of code creates a variable correctly? Okay, so int x is equal to, no, because we know that m is used for decimal, and the data type here for the variable we are trying to use is for integer, so that's not possible. Same thing with string. Here's the right one. Boolean x is equal to false is also not right because you don't need to have single quotes, so it would have been like bool x equal to just false and no quotes. So let's check our answers, and yeah, we did it. So I think I'll end the stream here. And yeah, we covered pretty good basics. So we learned about data types, and we also learned about how to store, retrieve, and assign values to variables, and how to use literals. We also went through some basics of C# syntax and what are classes, methods, and what else. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it up for today. Yeah, as I said, I don't have a fixed plan right now for like doing the live streams. I think I want to do it more often, like, but I don't want to be spread out thin with all the other projects. So yeah, but I do want to get good at C# and get into the .NET world. And yeah, I'll post out the schedule. I'll probably do a poll on Twitter to see what things, like how things work with the other people who are trying to learn C#. But yeah, I think twice or maybe 3 times a week would be my goal to do these live streams. And yeah, so we completed 2 modules today, and we're going ahead and doing the rest of it. So 6 of them are left, and yeah, I do want to get like more into some other stuff. So not only Microsoft Learn, so we'll look at some videos and some other training material that Microsoft has. Yeah, until next stream, you guys have a good night, and thanks for coming in and joining on the chat and joining the live stream. It was nice to cater to you. But yeah, until next time,